He was. Welcome to the Meet Magic Impact Card. What you're going to see tonight, the Raphael Rowe Foundation from the UK. He's going to be sharing his story about how he was locked up in prison for 12 years for a murder he didn't commit. We want to make Raphael's charity and the foundation so successful over the course of the next year. We're going to do so many meetings. We're going to raise him £1 million. This is where it all starts. This is Meet Magic 2.0. Come with me.
No pressure.
I shook the hands of serial killers. I've met men who have done such depravity that I don't know how I go to sleep at. I knew that there was more that could be done, which is why I set up the Raphael Rowe Foundation. And then I met Carl. Carl started talking to me about this Meet Magic thing and realised I'd missed a trick. And this is not me plugging Meet Magic. This is the truth of it, because I get invited to go to places all around the world. And I choose the people where I want to go, which pay the most money kind of thing. But it's not about that. It's because Meet Magic offers me something I didn't have. And that is, at the end of these kind of talks that I'm given to people, I didn't know how to end it. So Meet Magic gave me the opportunity to think, oh no, all I need to do is say to them, if you want to help, there is something you can do to support I and people like me doing in prisons. But my foundation is just sign up to Meet Magic. Because every time you have a meeting for 45 minutes with somebody, you donate £300 to change someone's life. But I'm so impacted by it, I'm so impacted by it that I'm here today. It was a no-brainer to come here and say, I'll sign up for this. It's something that you're not being offered anywhere else in the world. And it's so simple, it's so straightforward. And it does make a difference. And it's Meet Magic. So thank you for inviting me and taking the time to listen and support you. Thank you.
And for those that don't know, that was Raphael Rowe, and he was locked up for a murder he didn't commit for 12 years. 12 years. I got his book, and he signed it. Put a lovely note in it. In here, we actually the book's called Notorious. If you want to go out and get it, some amazing stories in there. Even the Cray twins, for all you English people, you'll know. But that was last week. We got Raphael Rowe to come out and talk at our event and the launch of our brand new Impact Card, which we're very excited about. Because it's purpose driven, it's about giving back, and it's about doing good, and it's all that good stuff that happens, every day. But now it can happen at work. And so for those that don't know, I'm Carl. I'm the founder of Meet Magic. It's a purpose-led service. It's a platform as a service, really, that gives executives and business leaders an opportunity to give back by doing what they do every single day at work, which is meetings. So we're reframing what a meeting is, making them feel good, because these meetings, they allow you to give back. And this podcast really aims to showcase purpose-driven leaders and change makers. And this is my way to share their story, because just like Raphael, just like me, we've all got a story. And this podcast theme is all really about not their job, but it's about them. It's about what inspired them to become in tech, what inspired them growing up, who their mentors were, what their visions were for the future. So if you want to get on the podcast and want to come on and have a chat with us, I'll be happy to introduce you. But for now, I'm very pleased. I mean, I've had a couple of chats with Leon, and Leon is this global chief information security officer for a company in the US called Openlane. And Leon's got a great story to share, and I'm going to bring him onto stage now to come and share it with us. Hey, Leon.
Hi, Carl.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
So I think the last time we spoke, it was my 7 a.m. in the morning, and I cocked that one up completely this morning. So I'm so sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
So tell us, Leon, I mean, obviously, let's just go back to where the last conversation we had this morning. You're having brain surgery.
Well, not really brain surgery. I have a faulty nerve called the trigeminal nerve, and it's not really rare, but it's fairly rare. And what it does is when that nerve, which has a sheath around it, as you start to get older, like I am, the sheath starts to wear away. And when that nerve touches a blood vessel, it gives you a shock like touching an open electrical cord.
Oh.
And those shocks can range from 1 second. The longest one that I've had is 14 minutes. And so if you imagine holding an open electrical cord to your face for 14 minutes, pretty not the most enjoyable thing.
Wow.
But I go see a neurosurgeon tomorrow, and there's 3 different surgeries for it. One of them is highly focused radiation, and that should take care of it. So we're hoping that all works.
Well, I can't believe you're on a podcast with me today, which is amazing. And so congratulations to you for being so brave and doing that. I kind of know what those. Well, I don't know how similar it is, but I pulled my back out and I had 2 slip discs, and then they gave me this thing called a TEMS machine,
Okay.
which you put little probes on you and you turn the electric shock up and it shuts off the pain receptors in the brain and helps you live with the pain of having a 2 slip discs.
Right.
But I can imagine yours is nothing like that. Yours would be. Oh.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing is that this particular nerve on the right side of your face controls naturally nerves around your eye, around your cheek, and around your chin. And the things that can trigger this particular shocks end up being talking, chewing, a cold breeze. And so you never really know when they're coming. And so, the 1 second ones tend to be, okay, that's fine. I stop for a second. I've had several that are like up to 2 minutes. And, when you have one that's 14 minutes, the 2 minute ones aren't so bad. So, but it's something that a fair number of people have seen. I think the numbers are like 4 in 100,000 actually have this. And again, all it is one faulty nerve that happens to be touching a blood vessel, and it is what it is. So it's we'll get it looked at, we'll get it fixed, and we'll go on.
And it doesn't discriminate between the sexes, so it can be male or female. It doesn't really matter who you are.
It's a little bit more common in women. And one of the things I've read, now you got to take the internet for what it is, but that if you're a woman under 40 and start to have these type things, it's a decent indicator that you might end up with MS.
Wow.
And so now naturally, I'm not a woman and way over 40. It's just a function of getting old, and so what's interesting is some of the medicine that they give you for it is starts to give you other things like I've had a cough for 6 weeks and just some weird stuff like that it won't go away, and so like I said, we'll go see a neurosurgeon and see what he has to say and get it figured out.
Well, I can only wish you well, and I hope it all gets sorted out soon, because that sort of pain. I mean, I hate to be corny and call it shocking, but it is. It's and men tend to put up with pain a lot more and just get on with it and don't complain about it. So I hope it gets sorted soon. Yep. Let's go. I mean, you're an executive. I connected with you on LinkedIn because purpose driven. So tell us a little bit about your background, because you're a chief information security officer of a company called Openlane. What does Openlane do?
So Openlane is in the wholesale remarketing of used vehicles. So we connect. We have 3 marketplaces in the U.S., or one in the U.S., one in Canada, one in Europe, where we connect manufacturers to dealers, and we will sell, several million cars this year.
Wow.
And then we also do things like we cut key fobs, we transport cars, things like that. And so it's really pretty interesting business. And it's we have the ability. We're worldwide, and so like I said, we have a marketplace in the U.S., one in Canada, and then one in Europe where we do the same type things.
That's quite interesting. So a couple of million cars will go through your platform.
Yep. Yeah, we used to run physical auctions, and so I think in Australia the closest thing would be pickles, and and so we had 56 auctions in the U.S. and then 14 in Canada. In 22, we actually sold our U.S. based auctions to Carvana, and so they own them now. So we still have the ones in Canada.
So how do you sleep at night? Because you're responsible for the cybersecurity of something that there must be millions of dollars of passing of revenue through the platform.
Yeah, there's I learned a long time ago that sleep is a luxury. I typically wake up 2 to 4 o'clock every morning, and just start. It's been going on for 30 years. 30 years ago, I used to wake up at 3 o'clock because my backups kicked off at 3:15, and so there was nothing that I could do about it. But it's like, well, I'm worrying about it. So and that was long 30 years ago at probably 5-6 companies ago, and but the same type thing. When there's a piece about being passionate about what you do, and when you're passionate, sometimes that keeps you from sleeping. You're waking up and you're worrying about what happened yesterday, what happens tomorrow, things like that.
It's actually very true. I mean, I often say to people, when you're inspired, it's in spirit. You don't need an alarm clock anymore. You just get up because you're ready to go. And it's only when you're motivated, and that's when you hit the snooze button, because you're not inspired. You're motivated, and motivation and inspiration come from very different parts of the body. So I think there's sorry, my phone's ringing here. How terrible am I? So I think there's a lot of difference in the two for sure. But as a CISO, I mean, what have you seen change over the past few years in your world? Because there's 24-hour ransom support if your ransomware is not working these days, and these cybersecurity criminals have got they've got 24-hour tech support for their products that are trying to scam people. How do you cope with all of that stuff?
I have a phenomenal staff that works for me. I've been fortunate that I think I've lost one person on my security team in the last 3 or 4 years. And we try and do interesting things. We try and do things that are intellectually stimulating, and we let people learn stuff. I would like to think that one of the advantages that I have, as opposed to a huge company, is if you're working in my group, you're doing new stuff all the time. You're not doing one thing day in, day out. And so you get to learn new things, by necessity. And we also do some interesting things. We do a lot with early stage startups, and one of the things we've talked about before is kind of what makes it a little bit different, and we're looking at what can help us, but also how do we help them build their organization. We're looking for very, kind of purpose-built software, but it's how do we help them build. What I've found is that a lot of founders and very brilliant engineers are great at engineers, or great at engineering, but they don't think about or don't understand what are people actually looking for in a product. They want to build, they just don't know what to build, and so we tend to help them build that.
Yeah, right. So let's go back to this. How you got there? Because I don't think anyone's born being a CISO, or born. Obviously, you've grown. You're about the same as me. I'm 54, and technology's evolved over the years. And I talk to a lot of the execs, and they tell us that the things that inspired them to get into technology was stuff that you would never imagine, like Dr. Spock. It was, these are the sorts of things that inspired some of the CISOs that we talked to just to get involved in technology. So what was your inspiration growing up? Was there something at one point that says, okay, this is my path, I'm going to go on this one?
It's kind of you know, a lot of people who are doing security today kind of fell into it. You know, I grew up, my dad had a body shop and a gas station, and I started working with him when I was 12, you know, and he was my ride. So, you know, I worked as much as he did. And so, you know, started working on cars when I was 12, and it was always figuring something out. Something's broken, let's figure it out. And when I looked to go to college, he actually, this was in the early 80s. And so the first unibody cars had come out. And so there were these big machines that were frame straighteners. And he said, well, you can either go to college, or I can send you to school to run this machine, because it's going to be forever. And you can ultimately take over the business. And I thought, you know, it's a body work and mechanical work. It's really hard physical labor. And I thought, you know, when I get to be, you know, 50 years old, am I going to want to do that? And so I decided to go to college. Computer science was kind of one of those things that, yeah, it was there, but it wasn't huge like it is today. The school I went to had a really good program, and I took it, doing more computer science and business, and that's worked out. And I think, you know, college was great, but I look at more, you know, people giving you the opportunity to go do something, and then, you know, looking for something to do. And quite frankly, when I look at who my mentors were, you know, this kind of, you know, maybe a little bit different, but my father was, you know, had a body shop and a gas station, probably the smartest guy I've ever met. Never went to college, and but just understood how to get stuff done, how to work with people, and I hope that I've learned some of that. I'm not nearly as good at the working with people part, being a tech geek, but it really helped me. And then, you know, taking the opportunity anywhere that I could to just, you know, go learn something new. Been doing that, been a lifelong learner. I have today I have about 8 certs, and I probably have, you know, 3 or 4 more from the way back times. And so, you know, that's one of the things that's driven me. You know, and quite frankly, when I look at, you know, one of the questions that you had was, you know, how do you give back? I actually mentor companies, startup companies, and people. You know, I want to see people be successful. And so, like, I met last Thursday with a guy who got his degree but doesn't have a job yet. And so I connected him with someone who was formerly in the U.S. Secret Service, because that's kind of what fit he was looking. But constantly looking for, you know, how can we help others? I run a CISO group in Indiana, and we're constantly looking for, you know, we're all have our own things to focus on, but it's how can we help each other? You know, one of the things that I've had a couple of conversations with folks, you know, the job that we do is remarkably stressful, and nobody really understands it. Yeah. You know, they all think that you're sitting in a hoodie somewhere and, you know, type really fast and all that kind of stuff. And I was talking to a couple different guys, and I said, you know, you're going to get frustrated. When you get frustrated, you know, don't go home and yell at your family. Call me up, yell at me for 15 minutes. You'll feel better. I won't care. And we'll go on with our day. And so that's only happened once or twice. But it builds a tighter bond with the guys that I work with outside my own company.
Yeah. I'm curious of that. We've been having some conversations with some of the tech leaders over here and in Singapore around how targeted they are by salespeople and vendors trying to get time in their diary, and how do you filter through all the noise? Because, as you know, there's a lot of great technology out there, but you know the amount that comes at you every day in emails and LinkedIn and God knows what else, you kind of struggle to filter through it all. How do you decide who to meet with? And How do you cope with with all the inbound stuff that's coming at you?
Yeah, I don't answer my phone ever, and my cell phone rolls to voicemail, and it's amazing the number of people that don't leave voicemails. I know that's sales. I do look at what comes in through email. I do look at what comes through LinkedIn, and kind of take a look at what's there, evaluate it against what I have today. And we also, one of the things I get every year when it's time for RSA or Black Hat, it's, hey, are you going? We're going to have a big party. And, we actually work with 3 or 4 different VC firms to look at some early stage tech. And I think I get more out of that than I would if I were to, go to the big parties, which I hate. There's just too many people there, and I don't have any use for swag, so it doesn't do any good. But spending focused time with the guys that are building companies, we've had occasion to talk with I talk with a number of owners of companies, and it's like, hey, your software is really good at doing this, but have you thought about doing this, because you have the ability with what you're doing to do that? And they're like, oh, yeah, we can build that. And it helps them be better.
Yeah.
And it actually helps us be better because I'm getting more in the product that I'm paying for, but it helps them to be better as an organization, and so the coping part, is, again, there's a lot of folks that, in some cases, I will get 3 or 4 emails from somebody, and I'll say, I appreciate your persistence. Now's not the time. So, it's 9 months out. So, hit me up then, or it's just not something that we're worried about. And then in some cases, it's like, yeah, I get what you're doing, but we're 3 stages beyond where you're talking. So it's not helpful.
It's really interesting in the way you give back. I kind of like that model of talking with the VCs and going through the latest investments that they've got in cyber, because that really is, you're giving them the practical advice that's on the ground that can be actually used. And that, as a founder, that's invaluable. And that it's the same, like I'm asking you these questions, for us to understand, what executives like and what they don't like. In that whole outbound process, because ultimately that B2B process, it's the only way business is getting done is by B2B, but it's the way in which it's happening at the moment which seems to be the problem. Do you find, if you've got like a project or something that you're going to go after, let's say, I don't know, you're going to put a new endpoint security or 2FA kind of stuff in place, do you talk to your peers in your community before you talk to the vendors?
Oh yeah. In fact, a funny story. This was 4 or 5 years ago, and I had a vendor, and I can't remember what the vendor was, but they said, hey, this real big company, downtown Indianapolis is buying a bunch of this stuff. And so I pulled out my phone and I started calling my buddy there, who's the CISO. And the sales guy's like, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm calling the guy that you just said he's buying all this stuff. I'm going to ask him. And the conversation took a hard right turn, but yeah, it's a fairly small community, Indianapolis is, and we've done a lot to try and make sure that we have community. One of the guys in our group is the CISO and Chief Technology Officer for the Pacers. Okay, the basketball team. And he's had us down twice for kind of a meeting / basketball game, and one of the folks that we work with a couple of years ago sent us some stuff that said, hey, here's some Russian malware that we took apart. Well, that means that they have somebody that can take apart malware and that speaks Russian. I don't have that, and so it's beneficial. But more, it's for, we have community, so we can be talking about, what's going on. There's probably 20 of us that that are on Slack together, and then the same 20 are on Signal together. And so we have the ability to communicate in real time if we're seeing something. And it's, it's banks, it's manufacturing, it's insurance, so we're seeing things from a bunch of different angles, and then just making sure that we kind of watch those back.
Yeah, right. I think in Australia last year there was 76,000 attacks, one every 7 minutes or something like that. No, that was 2022, I think, and then it went up 20% last year. And I think there's so something like 20%. I think it was up, so almost like 80,000 or something, 90,000. But 3 of them per day were of a serious nature.
Yeah,
and it was China, it was Russia, it was Iran, it was North Korea. Are they this sort of nation states that you focus on a lot these days?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a paranoid lot, so everybody's a bad guy to me. But those are the typical that people are looking for. But what's interesting is with VPNs, you have the ability to jump in and look like you're coming from the US or from Australia anyway.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of hard to try and figure out where somebody's actually coming from and to have attribution. So it's looking for, what are the things that are the worst. And I think the most recent statistics I saw is that 78% of breaches start via email. And so it's making sure that you have the ability, that you're watching email, you're using, technology to filter stuff out, potentially geo-filtering email and things like that, which can actually cause some problems. There's cases where, some of the big companies you're working with, they will bounce mail out of Netherlands or something like that. And so you got to be careful when you do those kind of things. But, I think it's first email, and then it goes to protecting yourself against RDP. It's amazing the number of people that don't protect remote desktop protocol for Windows. And, that's, if you put a server up that's on the internet, give yourself 12 hours before, and you have RDP open, you will have people on that server.
Right.
It's a business in itself. There are people that do, particular functions, and then they hand it off to another, and there's a whole supply chain in that space as well.
Yeah. Are you seeing? I mean, I didn't really want to go down this particular path, but it's such a relevant topic because, I think the decisions around the allocation of capital are quite interesting. I think everyone knows it's inevitable that you're going to have an attack at some point. It's not if, but when. But the actual risk tolerance versus the risk actuality at the board level is not quite there. Are you seeing that allocation of capital is up, or is it down? Is interest up?
In general with my peer group, it's up, but not significantly.
Yeah.
Call it 5-10%, somewhere in there. But what I think that people are doing is looking at, what are the things that they need most. The places that make me the most nervous today are hospitals, just because they have so much to worry about. In terms of technology, and if when you're in a hospital room, there's 6-7 things with a processor, and who's watching over that, and you have potentially a lot of places where you have a high number of contractors that are moving in and out every day. So from an identity space, it makes me nervous. And there have been several high visibility breaches on hospitals in the US, in UK, in the last 3-4 months.
Yeah. And it's kind of critical as well with those Bluetooth, systems that they've all got in there that are breathing apparatus that people are relying on, and they're being. I've seen a few of those as well being hacked. So, I mean, the dream job for you, where would a dream job for you be?
You know, besides being able to hang out with my grandkids all day long, which I'm working towards here in a few years. I'd have to say that I'm doing it. You know, I get to develop people. I love the folks that I work with. We have built up each other, and you know, I've been fortunate I've been able to take some resources from within the business and build them up. I also have I hire a fair number of ex-military, and they make, you know, phenomenal resources. Their businesses to protect anyway, and they've done a great job for me. But I'd have to say, you know, that I'm probably doing it today. You know, the things that people don't think about, you know, from a CISO perspective is, number one, the amount of time you spend with your legal team. You know, I spend probably 10% of my week with legal team, and it's on a whole variety of things. You know, one of our lawyers is chief privacy officer, so we're working with him on quite a few things. Excuse me. But we spend a lot of time with legal. We spend a lot of time with, you know, naturally with IT, but also with marketing, with other parts of the business. And I think that, you know, when I started doing technology, it was easy. You know, make this thing work, and then, you know, we'll kind of make it happen for everybody else in the organization. And you really can't do that anymore. You have to be, you know, you have to be thoughtful about, you know, how you roll stuff out. You know, one of the things that we kind of have a set of rules around are, I don't want to take a long time to roll out any particular product, especially if it's in the cloud. I want to roll it out with a role, because I don't want to do agents in the cloud. It's too hard because everything's ephemeral. But it's, you know, how do I roll things out? How do I get things to show value faster? Whereas, you know, 10, 15 years ago, it was like, yeah, if you take, you know, 18 months to get something done, you know, hey, that's great. You know, and now you want to get it done 18 days. And so it's just you know, how can I move faster? Things like that.
Are you seeing, I mean, this whole AI stuff at the moment, Leon, you know, building out AI and large language models and chatbots into your products? I mean, you're an online product. Is that something that you're doing at the moment? And if so, you know, how are you looking at pen testing this sort of stuff? Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that, you know, when you talk about AI in general, I think companies are probably in one of three buckets. It's, hey, we're going to go fast right now and get something done. We don't know what, but we're going to get something done. Some people are being thoughtful about how they do it. And then the others are like, I want no part of it, you know? And I think for how we're looking at it, it's going to be very beneficial, but we're going to go about it in a methodical way, you know, where it adds value. You know, I know a couple of folks that have been doing big AI for about 3 years, and you know, and they really understand it, and it spooks them. For me, you know, I'm more looking at it from, how can I use it from a security standpoint? How can I use it to make my folks' job easier or faster? But I think in general for business, they know they need to do something today, but they're really not sure what it is. And I think I saw an article just this evening that McDonald's was getting rid of their chatbots at drive-thrus. They're not performing like they wanted them to. So I think there's still some things that have to get better, but in general, I think there's a ton of stuff that's all good.
Yeah, so. I think it's the unknown unknowns that we don't know, right? That's right. No one knows no one knows where this whole all these language models are going to play out to, and what
Well,
data is
and
going to
there's there's 1,000 companies right now that are trying to do something with AI, and the problem is, of those 1,000, are there 15 companies that actually do something, and there's just too many to pick from right now.
Yeah.
In that space.
I've got a good friend of mine here called Jameson. He's the founder of a company called Dvuln, DVULN, and he was once a hacker. His story is quite incredible. His father was a criminal, ended up in jail lots of times, and Jameson ended up on the streets, homeless, and he was hacking credit cards when he was, to put food on the table to eat. And this is when he was a kid. And now he's a federally cleared cybersecurity pen tester. He's one of the top people in the world. It's a remarkable journey.
Yeah.
To go from where you were to now advising the top government agencies in this country on what to look out for. And he can only do that because he's coming at it from a hacker's perspective. He's not coming at it from a big four consulting perspective. And some of the stuff that we get to have conversations about. I mean, this sort of thing is one of the few areas I think that's been overlooked at the moment, is the whole AI, large language model kind of area. So it's
well, I think one of the things that will be critical is, especially for businesses, is what's the quality plan? How do we make sure that we get the same answer over and over and over, and we're not worried about drift, we're not worried about hallucinations? So I think that what will end up happening in the near term is people will be kind of, single threaded. We want a model to do this thing and this thing only. And because they're going to have to be tied to, how do I make sure that we're getting the same answer over and over? That's something I think people aren't really thinking about yet. It's more, how do I get something done fast? And then, 9 months from now, it's wait, something's wrong, and we don't know what it is, and then how do you go back and fix that? So I think, many companies are looking at it and just saying, got it. We know we need to move, and let's commit to that, but let's understand that we have to be thoughtful about how we do it. It's like, I can't say it's like any other technology, but there's so many things that you have to be really thoughtful about. You can't just say, this is the next new thing, let's go do it. I've been doing technology now for 38 years, and I know I look like it's about 10, but quite frankly, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's the principles over and over and over that are what drive it.
It's been a really fascinating chat, Leon, and I'm, that's coming to the end of this little chat now, 40 minutes or so. But I just want to say thank you for giving me some time. I'm always fascinated with execs that give back, and your passion is clearly evident. You can hear it in your voice. You can hear that elevation about the goodness that you're doing, and I really take my hat off to you for that, because it's hard for people to. People say they want to do it, but they don't necessarily go and do it. And you're actually doing it, and you should be proud of that. And I'm just grateful to have you on here. I'm going to end this with a series of 3 or 4. I think they call them Socratic questions. So just the first thing that comes into your head. Pick one. Okay. First question is: do you respect Kanye West?
I don't listen to his music, so, but everybody deserves some kind of respect. So
yeah. What time do you have dinner?
About 8 o'clock. I try and walk, get done with work, and then I walk, and then I eat.
Chocolate or cheese?
Chocolate.
And what was the last one here? The nickname your first girlfriend used to call you?
Really, the first girlfriend I had is the lovely lady I've been married to for 38 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's usually dear. So
well, Mate, honestly, Leon, thanks so much for giving me some time. We'll make sure we post all this and so people can get to see it. I think there's some amazing bits of information in there. And it should serve as an inspiration for other execs to really just get on and do something and give back. You know, it's a simple. You can even have a business meeting like this now, and that can give back. You know, I think we mentioned you were part of the do good community in the beginning, and the whole Meet Magic story is very similar to that. So it's very simple. You don't have to try too hard these days to give back to society. It's just a matter of you saying yes. You're going to prepare to do it. So. Thank you so much for coming on, and
Sure.
I wish you well tomorrow with your neurosurgeon. I hope that all gets sorted out pretty quickly, and time to celebrate afterwards.
It's all good. You know, either way, it's all good. I've lived a good life, so it's all good.
Yeah,
So.
you know, I often say the same thing. You know, if I died right now, I'd lie on my deathbed and go, "Shit, that was a good ride." I really.
Yeah, you know, it's you know, one of the things we talked about just in closing. You know, I've had 3 kids through sports and school and stuff, and I've enjoyed every season of life. But the season I'm in right now is always the one that I enjoy the most. You know, and I think if you look at it that way, you know, everything else kind of falls to the side. You know, because it's like, you know, you're doing what's important. So
it's a really beautiful way to look at it, and I'm enjoying my season too. It really is. I'm in my 50s now, and I think the 50s are definitely better than the 40s. And I just feel like I feel like you've got all that background of knowledge that you've learned growing up
100%.
to get to your 50s, and now you're just putting it into practice, and it feels good. So, wish you well tomorrow, Leon. Take care.
Thank you much,
We'll
Carl.
talk to you soon.
Okay.
Nice to talk to you.
Bye now.
Take care.